Allbirds, the former minimalist shoe company that briefly surged in popularity among
shoe retailer and wanting to shore up your business? Well, apparently, pivot to AI.
So Allbirds tried to treat footwear like a software update, patching designs and iterating on the different versions of their models. But in the physical world, the factory floor doesn't have an undo button. And we're looking at the data today behind how a $4 billion IPO turned into an inventory nightmare, and the exact moment their material science mode became a supply chain liability. So if you're scaling a physical brand in 2026 and beyond, this might be a reality check for you as you can't afford to miss. Now let's look at the numbers and dive in to talk about Allbirds. So first, what is Allbirds? So Allbirds is a footwear brand that is focused on more recyclable material. So they started with wool, and it was comfortable footwear that was renewable and sustainable, and also you can wash it, and it became very popular. Maybe in the late 2010s or so, with first starting with the Silicon Valley crowd, and started by a person named Tim Brown, who's a former New Zealand football player or soccer player, and he was very tired of logo heavy and overly designed shoes provided by the big sponsors. So he wanted something simple. And later on, he partnered with a person called Joey Zillinger, a biotech engineer who and also a renewables material expert who had the technical background. And they turned it into a Kickstarter. And they first started as a material science company. And so they launched the Kickstarter campaign, and it was very quickly, it got to around six figures, around $120,000 in a Kickstarter campaign in 2014. And at that point, it wasn't just a shoe; it was a certified B Corp company with a mission to provide sustainable, comfortable, and simple shoes. And from day one, they were more like a tech company in a way. From that, they were using iterative processes and versions so that they could quickly iterate through different versions of their shoe. While most footwear brands launch a certain model and leave it, Allbirds launched, for example, the Wool Runner, one of their first models, and tweaked the material and the construct based on immediate customer feedback so that they can keep on building upon it. And then in the growth stage, they grew very quickly. And by 2018, they were kind of the unofficial footwear for Google, Facebook employees. You got celebrities, famous people that were wearing it, Larry Page, Obama, and a lot of people in Silicon Valley that were wearing the shoe and found it very comfortable. And they raised over $200 million in venture funding from firms like Tiger Global and others before their IPO. And at their peak, actually, in November 2021 IPO, the stock surged, valuing the company at a little over 4 billion US dollars. And at this stage, from just the data, the financial information that we can see, it looked perfect. But you'll see the inventory building up as they couldn't really sell products fast enough, or they could have better paced themselves to expand into new categories. While data is definitely a good tool to use to figure out what kind of products sell, what kind of things consumers want, but at the same time, I think we also need to be cautious of it. And this is something that it was starting to become a problem for all birds. So now they're into the phase where there are more issues occurring, and I guess hitting a plateau in their growth period. And we see that they started scaling into leggings, sweaters, and jackets. And from a sourcing perspective, this was a nightmare moving from footwear, which is complex assembly, to apparels, which has a lot of textiles and whatnot. It requires a very different factory network and a way of thinking about the materials, material management, and also inventory management in general, because the sell through periods might be very, very different. While they prioritized sustainability over durability, as you might see in some of the reviews, or people during that time started to say, oh, it's some of their footwear, some of their shoes are um, maybe not as good after a couple of months. Um, the wool was soft, but also developed holes and in the physical world, your user retention is capped by the product's actual physical lifespan. So if my shoe starts to break or starts to have any kind of product issues after 3 to 6 months, then of course you're going to start to lose users or repeat customers that will think again if they're trying to or considering buying your product. And we see at that point, as the stock price crashed, the inventory levels skyrocketed. So this is kind of a perfect storm, if you will, a bad situation where they were producing much more than they could sell, leading to massive write-offs. So when the public market looks at these write-offs, of course, they will feel that, oh, the company's not doing well. They're maybe lower in revenue, but they have a lot of the stock they can't sell. Is the brand not doing well, which will lead to further sell-off? So it's kind of a vicious cycle in that sense. Now, a couple of years ago, they were going through a transformation plan where they shifted back to their core of products, and they closed a lot of underperforming retail stores, and they switched to more of a third-party distributor model, which is similar to that of the Nikes before 2019 or so, where they work with third-party retailers like Foot Locker or other brands, and especially in international markets where they could hopefully save operational costs and also kind of offload a bit of the inventory costs and its related costs like storage and other things to various distributors for them. However, as you see, and we're here today, it didn't really work out, and they've sold most of their brand assets and rights for Allbird to a separate company, and the original Allbirds company now is focusing its pivot to becoming an AI company. That part, I'm not sure how that'll work, but that's basically what's happening today. I feel that there are a lot of reasons why it might have failed, but a few things that I consider. One is the sustainability angle of the material. While sustainability is of course a very good product feature, it by itself may not be enough for a moat or a barrier to entry. And one of the things about sustainable material, especially for footwear, is that it's non-consistent because a lot of sustainable material is not made from synthetics, yeah, and others. Hence, it's a lot of it is either natural or it becomes recycled, and because of that, a lot of the material, it doesn't always come the same, if that makes sense, versus synthetic material and others where it's much easier to get a consistent quality and the way that it comes, so that when you have a lot of inconsistent material coming, then you also have a lot of additional manufacturing costs. So it could be that materials can't be used because it's not up to standard, and there's much more variety in the quality and things like that. So it's difficult. It's a very difficult thing. And on top of that, I think back in the day when they started, it was not as much about functional aesthetic shoes as it is now. Like maybe in the past 5 years, especially during the pandemic, after the pandemic, people are much more into running or into sports in general. So we see much more of growth in the sportswear market, where it's a lot about the functionality of the shoe. And of course, comfort is always going to be the basic requirement, but more about the functionality. And while Allbird kind of was more difficult to pivot into that because that requires a totally different set of skills, whether it be about R&D, finding the network of manufacturers that can also handle perhaps some of the R&D, and also figuring out the materials on that, and not just from a comfort sustainability point of view. So I feel that that was also one of the reasons why they slowly kind of lost a lot of market share to up and coming different brands. So what do you think about Allbirds? Have you tried it before? Leave any comments below and let me know if there's any other footwear brands that you want to know about. See you next time.